I absolutely flew through the community chapter. I don't know what came over me, but I was incredibly interested in this topic. In the past, I've struggled with this chapter, but this time around, everything went really smoothly. Of course, I had ups and downs in terms of my feelings. There were times when I felt really uncomfortable, but overall, I'm feeling really good about how I moved through this chapter. For that reason, I gave it a light blue cloud, and let's go ahead and go through my bullet journal spreads for this chapter. For the title spread of the community chapter, I chose a quote by Yehuda Berg, and it reads, "Humanity is our ultimate community, and everyone plays a crucial role." I've laid out the contents very similarly to previous months, and as you can see, I did all of the exercises in every section, except for the explore section where I chose 2 exercises to try. I kept it really simple for the reaction exercise. I only had a few thoughts pop up. So the first thing I wrote is that I'm at peace with being a community chameleon. I also wrote that community has always been an unsolvable puzzle for me. And for me, community is about not feeling like I'm alone in this world, but rather feeling like there's someone like me out there. I also asked the question, how can I build something for people like me? For word cloud, I jotted down a whole bunch of words that I associate with being in community. There are things that make me feel really good, like support, growth, a sense of meaning, a sense of belonging, but there are also things that make me hesitant about being part of a community in a deeper way, and these are things like exclusivity, groupthink, the emotional labor that's involved, misunderstandings, conflict, etc. In the pendulum exercise, I noticed that I was really excited about the topic of community, which isn't a chapter I've been that excited about in the past. And even though usually community isn't a topic that's top of mind for me, recently I've been thinking a lot about it. I've been wanting to get other perspectives on it and also really hone in on what community means to me. So I found that very interesting, that I was very drawn to this topic, whereas in the past I've been more resistant. I find online communities to be quite a treat. For example, I love being on YouTube and I also love being on Reddit. But on the flip side, what doesn't feel like a treat for me is participating in in-person communities. For whatever reason, I feel a lot more resistance. I don't really want to commit. And even when I do commit and I enjoy the gatherings, there's still a sense of resistance, like I don't really want to do this. Moving into the observe section and the journal exercise, I had a really nice week of self-observation. It was neat because I noticed a different community for each day, and I did write more extensive notes. But for the bullet journal spread, I decided to keep it really simple and just name the communities that I observed throughout the week. These are a mix of in-person communities and online communities. So I've got Reddit in here and YouTube. I've got the 5 a.m. club because I've been waking up a little bit earlier lately, and various other communities that showed up during that week. And I thought it was really neat to recognize that, yeah, I'm actually part of this community. I'm actually part of this community because I don't really give it that much explicit thought as I'm moving through my days. Sometimes I feel like community is an area that's really lacking in my life, but when I look a little bit deeper, there are threads of belonging that I feel in each of the communities that I named. Some of the patterns that I noticed, even though I participate in online and in-person communities right now, I am more of a passive participant. I either observe or I participate quite minimally. It's a very light touch when it comes to my participation. And while I do feel a sense of belonging from being part of these communities, there's a part of me that feels like I should be more active. It's kind of like my inner critic judging myself. I'm really good at showing up once I'm committed to something, even if I'm just committing internally to showing up for something, like waking up at 5 a.m. and the like. I'm very good at it once I've decided. I also really love the flexibility to come and go in these communities, to show up as I am and to the degree that my energy allows. And I notice that I can feel connected with very little actual interaction, which I think ties into the quote that I shared at the beginning of this video, where the ultimate community is humanity. I do believe this, and when I feel connected to humanity. I feel a sense of belonging even when I'm by myself and there's no one around me. The exercises I chose for the explore section were curiosity and components. I started with curiosity, and I really had one central question that I wanted to explore in this section, and that was the idea of online communities being true communities. So to do this, I decided to do something a little bit unusual for me. I thought, you know what, I'm going to chat with ChatGPT on this to see if we can have a meaningful exchange about this. I have used ChatGPT in the past, and I found the responses a little bit generic and canned. So I thought to myself, how can I make this more of a not so much like a formal, canned, business-like exchange? So before I went into this question, I asked ChatGPT to converse with me as it would with a friend. And because the program has memory now, all of my exchanges since then have been very conversational. There is a little bit of that, here are the things that you could try. And then there's a bulleted list with like a pithy title and then a bunch of verbiage afterwards. So some of the answers are still formatted in that way. But overall, I find it more conversational. So I found it really useful for this exercise, and I jotted down a lot of notes. Interesting thing that came up with my conversation with ChatGPT is the idea that communities, or a sense of belonging that you can find within communities, has also changed over time. Because we have mass forms of communication now, we have the internet, we have social media, so naturally the landscape of community and how people find a sense of belonging is going to evolve. So ChatGPT wrote, instead of needing to belong to a single stable group, people can belong to many different communities at once, each fulfilling a specific need or interest. So I think my idea of community in the past has been centered around this one perfect community that I could be a part of. And because I haven't found it yet, that was where I felt a sense of lacking. But when I look at all of the communities that I was a part of, as I noticed when I was observing myself for a week, I was like, yeah, this community does provide me with a sense of belonging in this way. This other community provides me with a sense of belonging in this other way. And maybe I can be a community chameleon and have all of these different communities that I'm a part of and feel really good about it. So I think I already have that base. It's just that now I need to change my mindset so I actually do feel good about it and I don't feel like something is lacking because I haven't found this holy grail community. With the components exercise, I wanted to picture a community that I personally would love. Some of the things that I mentioned is that everyone is welcome and can drop in and out as energy allows. The community would always be free to join. It would be online, but of course, members, if they connect with each other, they could take it to in person. There's organic, authentic growth, and it's okay if it grows slowly. Participants interact with each other, and the community is not centered around one leader. People don't have to actively participate, just showing up is enough. Participants are kind, nuanced, and compassionate even when they disagree. They are not afraid to be vulnerable. So those are a few things that I thought of that I would love in a community, and I think I've been part of different communities that have many aspects of these components, these characteristics. Moving into the connect section, I found this section really challenging. In previous chapters, I've been able to ad-lib or improvise with these exercises because I know them pretty well and I have a sense of what I want to do for each exercise. But this time I had no idea. When I started the memories exercise, I was like, I don't know what I want to write about. I have no vision for this exercise. Nothing is coming to mind. And so I really leaned on the prompts in this section, and it really helped. One thing I'll mention that was really interesting to me was the prompt, when it comes to community, I don't remember ... And I wrote that I don't remember ever actually feeling like I was part of a community. And the word community wasn't even in my verbiage when I was young. It's only recently that community has become like a really big word and a really big concept, at least in my own life. I feel like that word is used all the time, whereas in my childhood, I don't really remember that. I don't remember ever thinking about community or hearing the word community. It's only looking back that I can see, oh yeah, I was part of the Chinese Canadian community. I was part of the Wong's Association, which is a community, but I didn't really define them as such when I was younger. So that was just a neat realization about the word community itself. I also struggled with disentangling. I didn't know where to begin, and I felt a lot of resistance doing this exercise. So once again, I went ahead and I followed the prompts in the book, and that really helped me to sort through in a methodical way what I was feeling and my thoughts around the topic of community. And in the end, what I decided I wanted to release was the feeling that I need to conform to expectations, that I must be part of an active community to feel like a whole and complete person. I'm also letting go of the fear that people will judge me for enjoying my online communities. So that was something that felt really good to write down. I'm not there yet. I'm still feeling some sort of way about this topic and some sort of judgment or expectation around how I show up in communities, but I'm slowly working through that. And of course, it's going to take time. In the past couple of chapters, I think I did go rogue with perceptions and perspective as well. But again, this time I went back to the prompts because I was feeling very confused and just not knowing what I wanted to write for this. So I went ahead and I wrote down 3 things that my inner critic tells me, and then 3 reminders from my inner best friend. The last one I wrote was, my inner best friend reminds me that I have limited energy and I choose to focus on my one-on-one relationships and my creative projects at this time. I'm open to joining communities, whether they be online or in person, that align with my interests, like how I joined book club last year, and I will continue to do so in the future. Interconnections was where I started to get my creativity back and my confidence with these exercises. I decided to do something very different for this exercise. I went ahead and went through the subreddits that I've joined, and I wrote down 3 subreddits for each of the areas in my book. For example, under the area of money, I've joined the subreddits financial independence, fire, and frugal. Moving into the last section, which is reflect, pendulum redux was interesting because even though I do feel like I'm at peace with the way I participate in communities, I also do still feel like I want to participate a little bit more. I want to contribute a little bit more. Not a whole lot more because, again, I have limited energy levels, but just a little bit, just to challenge myself a little bit so I can be really proud of the way I show up. I also have this idea that I want to build a community of my own, but that's the part that really scares me. So I need to think about that a little bit more, do some journaling on it, do some more research to see if I am ready for that step. I think right now I'm not quite there yet. In looking up, I wrote down 5 statements using the prompt, I see myself as someone who, and I will share the one that resonated the most with me when I go through the summary section. I really enjoyed the treasures exercise, pulling out all of the different nuggets that I learned about myself. I'll just share 2 of them. The first one doesn't really have a lot to do with community, but I was surprised by how helpful ChatGPT was in sorting through my thoughts and emotions about community. And then the other little excerpt that I'll share is that when it comes to community, I'm grateful for how many different options there are and how we can access so many specific niche communities so easily. It's truly a gift. In the summary section, I share my looking up statements from the last 3 times I did the Authenblissity Reset. The first time was in November of 2021, and my looking up statement was, I see myself as someone who can find a sense of belonging within myself. This was when I had the aha moment that I really need to be okay with myself before I start trying to find communities to give me a sense of belonging. I really worked on that, and I still have a ways to go, but I think I'm much stronger in that respect now. The second time I did the reset was in February of 2023, and my looking up statement was, I see myself as someone who values the communities I'm a part of, but doesn't feel attached to or defined by them. I really realized that I can care deeply deeply about the people that make up the communities that I'm part of, but I can also appreciate the ephemeral and impermanent nature of my participation within these communities. For my third reset, which I just completed, my looking up statement was, I see myself as someone who views community as one component contributing to my overall sense of belonging. So I've really come full circle in a sense, and it all started with me finding a sense of belonging within myself. So I no longer have this sense of I need to be in this holy grail community to be a whole and complete person. I recognize that I'm already a whole and complete person, and the communities that I'm a part of contribute to my overall sense of belonging. That is it for the community chapter, and I only have one more chapter remaining in this book. The last chapter is all about spirituality, so I will be back in a day or two with the intro video for that chapter. Until then, please take care, and bye for now.